Hey guys, hello. How are we doing? This is Billy from the wilds of Ireland, fully clothed. Unlike the previous speaker, was Eva. That was pretty amazing. And here we have my good mate and raconteur, Mr. Charley Boorman. Hello, Charlie.
Hey guys, how is everyone today? Or this evening, I suppose. That's a very nice. You look like Santa Claus, Billy. Are you getting ready to deliver presents?
I tell you what, I am here on the coast of Ireland with no electricity, completely off grid. So all I've got is a Vodafone dongle, and that's why I'm here. It's the wonder of science.
Wow, how fantastic! And a generator.
Charlie, I'm a small generator. It's a small. I only use it for emergencies, like attack, some sort of medical emergency. So anyway, Charlie, we haven't got a lot of time. We've only got about 30 minutes. So normally we talk an awful lot about your background and the Hollywood thing and John Boorman, your father, Deliverance, and that. But I think we need to really just get straight to the chase here with Long Way Up. A lot of people I think are on again after the spring show that we did here, and so they've had a fair bit of the background. But fair to say, Long Way Round, amazing. 2004, awesome, incredible. I mean, raw, proper raw. 2007, Long Way Down. You were getting used to it. It was your second one in. You more of a rhythm to it. Maybe not as raw for me anyway. And then everyone knew Long Way Up was coming, or the whisper was out, and then all of a sudden you just confounded all of the pundits, and you did it not on BMW, not on Triumph, not on all of the other brands that you could have come up with, but you did it on a Harley Davidson. And we were all secret, by the way. Last time we spoke on here, everything was secret. You couldn't say anything about anything. But now, Charlie, reveal all.
Well, look, I just spoke to the powers that be, and I'm still not allowed to talk about it. So no, it was interesting. I mean, Long Way Up came about for me at a very fortuitous time. I'd gone through, as people, if they saw it, this talk last time, I came through a lot of motorcycle accidents, and when we were planning this one, I then had a second accident and really fucked myself up. And I broke my collarbone, I snapped my forearm, I broke my pelvis. And you were with me, Billy. I mean, you took me to the hospital, and I was out cold for 18 hours, and lung collapsed, and all the side of my chest was all broken. And I mean, it was a pretty bad, a bad state. And I think I was found by the bike with my helmet had slipped off my head and was choking me, and I was going blue in the face. And so, I was very fortunate, but when I came back, we were planning to do Long Way Up, and I was back in a wheelchair. And so when we were, talking to the powers that be, that Apple, to make this TV show, I kept hiding from everybody because we couldn't tell anybody that I completely smashed myself up again. So that was the sort of, but that was part of why I think Ewan and I started seeing each other. I was stuck in London. He was making a movie here, came over to come and see me for a couple of nights, and ended up spending a month here. And we started talking about motorbikes again, and we started talking about doing Long Way Up. We felt it was the right time. It'd been quite a long time. And then we were sitting, and Russ and Dave came over for a barbecue in my house, and it was in the summer, and I was hobbling around, and we started sort of thinking, well, what should we do to make this different? And we can't just get back on the bikes and ride, so it has to be something different. And Russ actually was the one who came up and said, why don't we go electric? No, not many people have done it in that way. People have done bits of it, and people have done bits of electric, but never in one big sort of hit. And Russ loves a bit of a record breaker, or to be one of the first, or the handful of people to do it. So, and we all thought, yeah, that's a great idea. But the reality of it really was completely different. I mean, it ended up being a completely different animal for us once we decided to go electric.
Let's face it, I would say, and I think hopefully you'll see where I'm coming from. It was a gamble. Surely it was a gamble. It was a big gamble. You had all that, if you like, power of long way round, long way down, and then you decided to do long way up, not only on Harley Davidson, but on an electric bike. Wasn't that a big gamble to potentially lose?
I don't know if it was a gamble. I think we sat there thinking we've done two already, and if we went and did a third one exactly the same, maybe that would have been more of a gamble of it being less successful, or people would have been maybe not so interested because it was just a third of the same. And the electric of it all, I mean, we went in not really thinking about that we wanted to be eco warriors or do this. We're both big petrol heads. We both own a little, we have a couple of motorbikes and some other bits and pieces, but the idea of doing it, and regardless of what we think, it's the future. And so one of the biggest things about electric, everyone says, oh well, you can't charge them, and oh, you can't go anywhere, you can't they have no distance, it's impossible to do this, and I think all of us, including myself and Ewan, when we first started, we all had that kind of range anxiety syndrome, probably the same way as people had when cars first came out. When you jumped in your car for the first time, with petrol, and you leave your house and you go to wherever you're going, and you think, well, would I get there? When I'm there, will there be petrol? I mean, back in those days, you could only buy petrol or fuel in a pharmacy in those days. And so there was lots of, I think people are scared of the unknown. And so I think Ewan and I were a little bit like that. So when we decided to go electric, it opened up all this thing. And then we realized that, this is back in sort of 2000, end of 2018, 19, we were looking at, and there weren't that many manufacturers who had a motorcycle ready. Zero had a decent bike. They'd been producing bikes for a while. Harley Davidson, suddenly came up, and suddenly they go, well, they've got a good bike. They've been developing it for 6 years. And we go, what do you mean Harley Davidson? You've got an electric bike? I mean, it seems so kind of sort of such an odd avenue to go down. And we looked at all the other manufacturers, and Harley really came out on top. And what a great idea. What a thing. You say, well, we're going to go and do this trip from Argentina to the bottom of Argentina to Los Angeles, and we're going to go electric, and we're going to do it on Harley Davidsons. I mean, it made us laugh, and it was, but when we spoke to them, they had really worked for 6 years, had been developing this bike, and had gone all around the world and asked people to give it a go. And so we got chatting to them, and we said, look, we love the bike, but it's very road orientated. Would there be a possibility to make it a little bit more adventurous? And they just said, absolutely, look, we can do whatever you fancy. So Ewan and I got together, we decided what we wanted. We wanted it to be more of an adventure bike, and they went away, and then so we tested it first, and then we told them what we wanted, and then they came back not very long later, and they came out with this bike that you see on Long Way Up, and it was this adventure bike, and they'd taken the Pan American front end, which is their new petrol adventure bike, stuck that onto the front, jacked the back up, put a new subframe on the back with panniers and a bigger seat, and had made this adventure bike. And what was incredible was that they all did it on, the whole team of people who worked on it did it all in their own time. So they all worked all day, and then they would, in the evenings and the weekends, they would work on this project, and they had to test it for a week out in the desert because all the geometry had changed. It was huge what they'd done.
Are we going to see it? Are we going to see that actually become a production bike, do you think?
I hope so. I think so. I mean, anybody who's watching this now, just get out there and ring up Harley Davidson and say, can we have one? And maybe they'll do it. But it's an incredible bike to ride. I mean, the live wire alone, I mean, it's it's a naked sports bike. It accelerates 0 to 60 within 3 seconds. It handles incredibly. Actually, in fact, I'll just tell a secret, because I put it on Instagram. I put a photo of me on the live going around turn 1 at Brands Hatch, and I hadn't told Harley Davidson that I was going on the track day. So, but it really handles incredibly well. But so they built this bike. We go down to the bottom of Argentina, and then we decided to take these 2 Rivians as well, these 2 chase vehicles or support vehicles, which are electric as well. And Rivian, who make them, they'd never made one before. They'd raised all this money to build them, but they hadn't actually made one properly. So we took 1 and 2 down there. So they were prototypes. The Harley Davidsons were prototypes. They'd not been for sale yet. So they were, and then, trying to get the bikes into the country, because, they would say, well, what engine size is it? And you go, well, they haven't got any engines. What do you mean they haven't got any engines? Well, they're electric. Well, what do you mean they haven't got engines? Because there's no engine number. It's just a chassis number. So there was all sorts of confusion. So we finally got the bikes down. And then, we had all this hassle figuring out how to charge them, and we had all these cables that weren't really working properly. And then Ewan and I realized that it was in a blizzard. It was the worst winter for 30 years. Down there. We got delayed by a week because it was just blizzards outside every day and snow on the ground. And then Ewan and I realized that we were just about to leave, and we realized that we'd never really charged them, and we'd only ever ridden them for about an hour. That was it. We'd never ridden them from that, and so that first kind of week of that delay was just extraordinary. How complicated it was. And then we had all this range anxiety that was coming through this whole thing of, how are we going to charge them? Are people going to allow us to plug in? And it was an endless kind of worry and fear of the whole thing.
Charlie, tell us about the reliability. In other words, lots of people were making gags about the fact that the Harleys would probably fall to pieces by the time they get there, particularly in Bolivia, where you're going over some, long way round kind of, and long way down kind of terrain. And, let's face it, in long way round and in long way down, the bikes do break down. The bikes do break down.
No, for sure. No,
how did it go with the Harleys? I know we've seen you
for sure.
Something or other.
I think once we got started, we hadn't even got that far. All we thought at the beginning was, can we actually leave the town in between blizzards, and so we finally got away, and the first day worked perfectly. We went exactly where we wanted to go, stopped off in this bakery and topped up the bikes for an hour or so, and then moved on to this thing. And then we went to this, I think we stayed in a hotel, and there were plugs outside, and we plugged them in, and it was brilliant. And we went on, but that became quite difficult, and asking people, to stopping and asking people if we can plug in, and we'd plug into some restaurants and we'd plunge the whole place into darkness, or we'd stop in a place where we could sleep the night, we'd plug in and the whole place would go down, and we realized that you can't plug them into the same run of plugs. So you would plug one in one side of the house and plug one on the other side of the house, so that you had 2 different cables going into the fuse box, so that you didn't blow them up. And then we thought, well, no one's going to let us do it, because they're not going to know how much it's going to cost to charge it. We knew that it was about $1. It was about $1.75 to fill them up, each of them. So it's pretty cheap, and but it takes 11 hours. So we plug in, but not one person ever said no. But they all had the same thing. They all said, "Oh, you're going electric. That's incredible. What bikes are they?" And you say Harley Davidsons, and they'd go, "What? Where's the noise?" But you were mentioning about reliability, and really they apart from that one problem with Ewan's bike, which was actually there was a little fault in the someone which stopped. Apart from that, were set up, and they handled, and they dealt with everything just quite incredibly. I mean, as you can see, I mean, nothing really ever went wrong with them. And as you see on the long ways, the other long ways, we were constantly strapping things down. But then this time we finally learned not to take a ton of stuff, because we knew that you know, the more weight you have, the less distance you go. And so we stripped it right down. Finally learned our lesson after 14 years of adventure riding.
I tell you what I thought was just absolutely lovely, really effective, really sweet, really emotional was basically Ewan coming clean about, you know, Jamyan, the little girl that everybody's seen in Long Way Round, 2004, all that time ago. And no one really knew, only, you know, the inner circle knew that happened, that Ewan went back with his family and adopted that little girl. And now all of a sudden, there she is in Long Way Up, and actually, you know, starting university this year or something, and then joins in. And I think for me, it was proper cool. I mean, what was it like for you guys and for the crew?
No, I think, I mean, for us, and specifically, and of course, specifically for Ewan and his family and stuff of you know, taking on, and it took a long time to get Jamyan, as it says in the TV show and stuff. But for us, it was an emotional roller coaster for years. And we, you know, stumbled across Jamyan. I'd actually, when we were in Mongolia, in Ulaanbaatar, you know, we'd done this Unifest project, and I was sitting at the table interviewing her, and you know, she'd been abandoned on the doorstep, and this little girl was looking after her, and she wouldn't talk to anyone else, and we all just fell in love with her. But I remember that evening I was lying in my room, and Ewan came in and sat on the bed and said, look, you know, this is what I want to do. And so the ride has been incredible since then. She's been my little goddaughter for ever since. And you know, we've all been lucky enough to be able to be part of her life a little bit, particularly, of course, Ewan and Ev and Clara and Esther and stuff is and Anouk. It's been quite wonderful. And you know, I got a text from her just this evening. She had posted she's in, you know, university, and she posted something that was going on, and it was all about Black Lives Matter, and she's really absolutely solid on that, and it's lovely. It's beautiful, and it's lovely. It was so lovely to have her along, and for her to be part of the thing. And our kids, in many ways, have been part of all of our trips, you know, and you know, I mean, mine aren't that bothered so much anymore because they're 23 and 24. but it was lovely having Kinvara there at the beginning, and Dune, my daughter, worked on this project as well, all during lockdown. My daughter worked on this project, and poor thing had to transcribe a lot of the absolute crap that Ewan and I spoke endlessly all day long on our comms, because our comms were open mics, and we recorded everything all day. And
now it was lovely to see.
My daughter would come down and she'd go, what the are you guys talking about? It's just rubbish.
Yeah.
We spent 3 days talking about Cabbage Patch dolls and where they're planted and born. And there was in one part, I can't remember where it was. I think it was Chile or Colombia. I can't remember. We kept going past these grass fields with these big tufts, and they had these big tufts of hair, which looked like the little tops of Cabbage Patch dolls. We used to talk about that for hours, and oh god, it was funny. And we had such a laugh.
It was very cool to see your girls all grown up and get another look at them, because, you know, we've seen them in Long Way, we've seen them in Race to Dakar, and you know, it's quite funny. You sort of feel like you're growing up with them. Well, I'm growing old with them, but listen, I want to take some questions from the audience. We got Michelle here saying, why didn't we see more of Claudio? We wanted more of Claudio. I think a lot of people were expecting a bit more of Claudio. He tended to be very much focused on you guys and less the threesome, because although it was a twosome, it did in Long Way Round and Long Way Down, it did. Claudio kept being in there all the time, didn't he? Doing his thing, like, you know.
I think, yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, Claudio, you know, none of this could be possible without Claudio. And I think, you know, I think one of the things that working with Apple and stuff, you know, we had to raise our game because there's standards and it's 4K. And, you know, when you think about it, when we did Long Way Round and Long Way Down, there were no GoPros or drones, or there wasn't anything like that. We invented this whole system about having a camera on our helmets and a camera on the bike. We invented all of that. And so when Claudio was filming, he was filming the camera, and he was always quite close and sort of part of the action. Whereas this time, you know, we had drones and we had all sorts of stuff. So Claudio was much busier doing all of those things. And you know, for him, you know, not only did he rode a petrol Harley that, you know, is a road bike really. And he had cameras just mounted all over his bike, but he did these most incredible drones. And what we were able to do was to be able to sort of have that intimacy of Ewan and I talking and Claudio filming us and stuff like that. But then when we were saying, you know, oh my gosh, this part of the world is beautiful. Like there was a shot in one of the things where we went through this whole, I never forget it. We went through this whole huge flock of sheep with all these gauchos on their horses, and we were talking about there was this massive river running alongside it, and it was breathtakingly beautiful. And these gauchos have these guys on horses, these proud, incredibly able men on these horses, and suddenly Claudio, you know, gets the drone out, and he goes, right, you guys go there, and the drone just pulls out. And suddenly the audience are sitting on the bike with us, but then suddenly they're seeing what we're seeing. And in actual fact, when we went back and saw the TV show, we were going, oh my God, so that's what that valley really looked like. Because on the motorbike, you're just sitting in the motorbike, you can only see. So for us, it was a great thing. But again, you know, everything that Claudio did was just outrageously fantastic. And you know, and he was fighting his own demons at the time as well. So
that's true. Yeah, good point. I want to try and get through some sort of fast fire kind of.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, from Life 2 on tour. Want to know out of the whole trip, country-wise, which country sort of shone? Which country was, you know, the real shining star?
I think for me. I think it's very difficult to say what particular country. I can certainly say that there were absolute moments in all of these different countries. I think if I was really forced to choose an area, I would choose from Colombia all the way through Central America and that southern part of Mexico. That was just incredible. Colombia is one of these places that it's, you know, I mean, you've got the TV show Narcos that's on at the moment, and it kind of keeps glorifying the whole thing of Pablo Escobar and stuff. But Colombia has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. And it is one of the coolest places. Medellin and stuff is one of the coolest places to hang out. And then Costa Rica was absolutely amazing. The first light bulb ever turned on in Costa Rica was powered by renewable energy. 90% of Costa Rica's power is renewable energy. And they don't have a military. So the money that they would have spent on the military, they spend on renewable energy, education, and infrastructure. And it's the most awesome part of the world. It really is just stunningly beautiful.
Okay, next one. Bill Bailey. Hey, didn't know Bill Bailey was watching.
Oh, Bill. All right, Bill.
All right, Bill. Bill Bailey wants to know, we could clearly see some of the injuries affecting you, and even though like one was 2018, the other was 2016, probably the only two real crashes you probably ever had in your life, to my knowledge, but two pretty big ones. how are they actually affecting you? Because you were still in recovery when you'd had the Africa crash 2018, and we could see it was hitting you and you were worried about it, and Ewan, of course, was concerned for you.
Yeah.
How are them injuries now?
No, I mean, that was, you know, I mean, when I'm very lucky with those two crashes. I you know, things could have been much worse. And as you saw yourself there, Billy, you know, I had big brain injuries and from the second crash and stuff. So very lucky to be around. I can walk, I can get around. The problem is that now, but I've been left with sort of permanent injuries. So my right ankle is still very bad. I can walk around. If I walk too much, I just suffer the next day really badly. My left knee is getting weird. My left leg is bowed like a cowboy. And so that has to be addressed. I've got to fuse my right ankle. I have to have a knee operation. I'm going to have to change my hip. And this hand here has, because I snapped that in thing, and all my fingers, all these three fingers here have no feeling anymore. And this one's got a bit of a really funny shape. So yeah. So
Barry Sheen.
Yeah, well, Barry Sheen, I mean, you know, he had a lot of medal, but I think I've surpassed that. No, but it's fine. You know, it's fine. I was lucky. I woke up on that first crash with three limbs not working, and and I looked over at the bed next door to me, and the guy wasn't in a great shape. And I looked at myself, and I thought, do you know what? It's not so bad. I felt quite cheery about myself, really. I was like, actually, this isn't so bad.
This should be a quick one. Michelle Forte asks, when's the DVD coming out, Charlie? When's the DVD coming out?
Well, if you subscribe to Apple TV, you can watch it forever. So
clearly the answer is 1970.
No, eventually it will, for sure. Eventually we'll have one. But you know, it has a lovely home, and you know, they're great people to work with, and so it's all good.
Well, I think one of the cool things is some people have been saying it there on the questions. They're all coming up in front of me in the background here. Is that you can sign on to Apple TV for 7 days for free and binge watch the whole lot. And if you don't want to keep TV, you can leave it then afterwards. Like so.
Yeah, for sure. And then if you buy a new device and stuff like that, you can but just don't forget, you can subscribe for a month and for a couple of months, and you can unsubscribe, and then you can, you know, subscribe again for another month if you want to later down the line when there's more stuff coming out. There's good television on there, you know. There is. So yeah. Okay,
we got Murray Duguid, je pense le français. Eh? It's the question is, Charlie. That was French, by the way. That was French.
Just stick to being Father Christmas.
Just listen to the question, okay? Was Mexico really that bad, as it seemed like you made a big deal with the bus and sneaking through Mexico? I quite enjoyed the bus thing. It was a bit like the A-Team with David Alexander, like really ramping it up and building this bus. I quite enjoyed that. I actually could have watched more of the bus thing in its own right, really. But was it that bad?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, like all these things, you know, when we were in Central America, we there was a motorbike. I think we had him on TV. I can't remember now, but we passed this motorcycle, and he turned around and came back and stopped us, and he said, I heard you guys were coming up this way, and I was for sure I was hoping we would cross, and so we had this lovely conversation, and I said to him, so where are you going? He goes, I'm going down to Argentina to Ushuaia, you know, where we started, you know, and he was doing it in the right way, so he would get down there in the summer, and I was saying, you know, how long are you going to take? And he goes, I'm going to take about 1.5 years to do the whole trip. And I said, fantastic. And so I said, you've got loads of time. He says, no, actually, I've got to rush through Central America because I've already taken 9 months, and I'm only at the beginning of Central America. So he said, I'm actually now on a time limit to sit. So I think we all, no matter what trip we do, no matter how much time we're given, we never have quite enough time. And so Ewan and I had a little bit of, you know, we had our certain time. Then we got to Mexico. We had a, you know, there was in certain parts of Mexico there were certainly issues, and the other side of it was that, you know, we were running out of time as well. So it kind of served a couple of persons, and it was great fun. I mean, that bus, you know, I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, you know? Alex
has just come up and said, Charlie, perhaps the bus could have its own series.
Yeah, all right. It wasn't that great, the bus, you know? No, it would. I mean, you know, you see these things on Instagram and all that kind of stuff of people who have converted buses and all sorts of stuff. And you just think, you know, and especially now with all this lockdown and the way the world is at the moment, you know, we've got this wonderful chance about a vaccine, you know, and really I was really thinking about the vaccine, because you got the ones that have been developed where they need to be kept at -70, which in the rich countries that's possible, but for the rest of the world it's not possible. You know, I mean, I've done with UNICEF, I've done that cold chain thing where you go from Nepal up to a tiny village in the middle of nowhere, and you take a box with you with you know, ice bars inside with the vaccines, and then you travel for a bit, and then you go and you replace them, and then you travel again, and then you replace them, and then you go up to the tiny village and you vaccinate people. So you know, having this Oxford vaccine, which can be kept in a fridge, is a game changer for the world. It's a global possibility, and it's hugely important. And so now that the vaccines come along, we all have to sort of sit there and be patient, and it'll come, and we'll all be vaccinated. But I've been listening to people on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, and they've been watching the show, which I'm really grateful that people have taken the time to watch the show. But you know, it doesn't it sort of make you start thinking, actually, you know, where am I going to go, you know, and shall I, you know, I'm starting to think about I've been talking to Ewan, and we've been starting to think about all sorts of other things, but so it's great, and I think that we've all kind of sat there, and we can all really appreciate now, you know, I don't think we should ever jump on a plane and fly somewhere, and let's not forget how lucky we are to be able to do that. So next time we all go on holiday, let's really enjoy it, you know?
Well, on that one, Charlie, each year me and you lead a big gang of people.
You and I.
All right, lads. All the way from Cape Town to Victoria Falls and back down again. We've done it on BMWs, we've done it on Triumphs. So this year, Charlie, I mean, you're going to be riding like electric bikes. I mean, Cape Town to Victoria Falls. How's that?
Billy, I'm not sure if you could handle the power, Billy. So, you know, you struggle, you know, trying to keep ahead of me on the petrol bike. So, you know, well, listen, there's lots of opportunity.
2018, Charlie, were you?
Well, I was in hospital in 2018. Listen, that crash was because an elephant was hiding behind a tree, and as I went past, it stepped out in front of me, so I didn't see it. So it blindsided me. So, you know, I mean, yeah, no, we do a motorcycle tour every year, where we go from Cape Town to Victoria Falls, and we go through South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana, and Zimbabwe, and it's fabulous. And we do safaris and stay in the most beautiful places. And then we sort of head back down again in a different route. So we do kind of like a circle, and we'll I think if we can get down to Africa this year, it'd be nice to stop where I crashed and, you know, set up a monument for here is where Charlie really fucked up. And we all do it, you know. And you say that, oh, Charlie, those are your two big crashes, but I've got scars. I mean, I had this on my hand on my hand here, I broke my hands quite badly on the Dakar rally, and my hand surgeon, he did an operation here, and then the next surgeon in South Africa just carried on the scar here and just carried on down to here, and then I broke this hand, and then I had to get the same hand surgeon. He came up and I said to him, look, I've had this big crash and I've messed up my hand, you know. And he goes, well, I hope you haven't bloody well messed up the good work I've done. That's good. No, it's the other hand. It's okay. And he goes, okay, that's fine. So anyway.
So someone just asking there, so Charlie, you know, joking apart, where is the next trip? Where is the next? Is that a whiskey, by the way? Is that whiskey you're drinking?
No, it's a lovely, it's a little bit of rosé. It's called Notorious Pink. It's absolutely fantastic. Wow.
Where's the next trip?
I think, you know, it's funny when you do these big journeys, you know, when they all have their own life, and when they sort of starting to come to the end of that life, you start to get excited. In part of you start to get excited about going home and seeing your family and friends and being at home and all that kind of stuff, because you miss it after 3.5 months, 4 months of traveling. But a bigger part of you doesn't really want the trip to finish. So that's when you start, that's when Ewan and I, and what lots of people do, is you start talking about the next one. And you say, well, look, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And that somehow makes it easier for the trip that you're on to finish, you know, because you think, oh, well, I can finish this one because I know we're going to go and do that one. So I think Ewan and I have always spoken about, towards the end of Long Way Up, we started talking about maybe doing Long Way Scandinavia, or maybe Long Way Down Under from London to Sydney would be quite nice.
Richard Davis. So what happened to the bus, Charlie? You got to the border. I mean, did the bus get given away, or are we going to see the bus again sometime in the future? Richard Davis.
Yeah, no, we're still we're still trying to sort of get it across the border, but it's the people who built it are putting it to good use. So it's what's lovely about that is that it's been given its fourth or fifth life, and she's a purring, lovely little bus. So she's going to be making a lot of people very happy.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Daniel Johnson, is the North Pole adventure, is that something that could be on the cards somewhere cold? Because be running out.
I can tell you, we already did cold at the beginning of Argentina, and freezing cold, and motorbikes just don't work. I'm not, that's not, Ewan and I are not that kind of, we're more sort of Central America type of people.
So Charlie, where do we go to find out about how people can come on a trip with you and me in Africa and in Australia? And there's several people asking about the Australian ride, which is due to be taking place in February. But I can answer that one, that it's not going to take place in February.
No, maybe some other part of time of the year. But listen, I think with all these trips and stuff like that, I think, we within the next six months or 7 months or so, I think we're all going to be just fine. And so it's amazing what people can do, and so what we are going to do is we're going to head to Africa in September with a bit of luck, and do those 2 trips, and we'd love people to come along, and we'll probably fit Australia in wherever we can, possibilities. I mean, and one of the reasons I do all these trips is because I love the continent of Africa, and I love going to Australia, and I've got loads of friends. We've got loads of friends in Australia, and so part of doing these trips is just so that I can go back to Africa and enjoy it, and go back to Australia and see all our friends, and a lot of the places that we stay on the way are they are all friends now. The people of these lodges and hotels and places that we go, and we have all these friends. So it's lovely. So if you want to come along or have a look, go to charleyboorman.com and it's all there.